and all that. If at any point you have any questions, or if you don't understand me, or I can explain myself correctly, just let me know. That's the whole objective of this thing. So we all know what to do. So while we are doing our real run, we don't have any issues. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. The initial trash is like meh. It's not that dangerous as long as we focus our things. I don't think that there are any mechanic that we should worry about those pools. Is that correct?
Yeah, just biggest thing is make sure you listen to callouts for what mark to focus on first. That's the most important thing.
Okay. The first boss, there is a consumable, arcane protection, that is required to be used by melee. In this boss, can you please position ourselves if you were like dividing? Okay. There are two things that are really important about this boss in terms of mechanics. One, if you are range or healer and you are getting damaged by the arcane explosion, you are too close. And two, if someone gets mind control, you need to CC him, because if you see a big red guy running towards you, he's going to one-shot you. So all mages, and even if mages are a little bit slow, we need to CC that person in order to avoid like getting people killed. In terms of the fight, the main guy or the initial pull happens here in the start. There is a phase, a transition where the boss splits in 3 images. Those images can appear one in diamond, one in square, and one in star. There may be some cases where a couple of images appear in one position, so you just have to adjust. In terms of healers and range, we need to position up here where Snark is, and also where Emende is. So where triangle and X is where we position ourselves. Range DPS can hover around using this ledge to keep DPS in and all that. So this boss dies really quick. The only dangerous thing is that if we don't CC the raider that is being MC, you are going to die because that guy one-shots you. So yeah, and if you are range and healer and you are too close and get blasted by arcane, just move a little bit away. Anything else that I'm missing, or any questions about this boss?
Probably need to talk about how tanks need to pick them up quick. If not, they'll start shocking the bejesus out of people.
Yeah, we'll have tanks positioned on each of the things, so we have 2 tanks on left, middle, and right. So that way tanks can pick them up immediately and avoid people getting Earthshock, because the Earthshock hits for about, 2,500 nature damage. It hurts.
Okay, so just be careful when the image, when images appear, so the tanks can grab those. Focus the fakes ones really fast. You will know. Could we chat real quick about switching to fakes? What do you mean about that, Fark?
Never mind, you just covered it.
Okay. Yep. When the fake ones appear, focus them. They die really fast, and the last one standing is the real one. So just keep doing that DPS, and CC the big red guy that will run towards you. Don't kill him, please. And I think that's it. So let's move on. As a reference, if we wipe while we are doing like Emperor or Kutun or those guys, you can TP really close talking to the Gnome lady. That Snark is really close. So if you talk to that lady, she can teleport you either to the Emp room or the Kutun room. Sorry. This trash pool, it is important for melee to be positioned with their backs towards the wall to avoid them getting catapulted to like a LOS or pulling more stuff. So when you are killing these guys, just have your walk your back towards the wall, and that's it. Nothing that dangerous about this trash pool. While running down here, it is important to stick to your left to avoid pulling mobs. So it's one thing that we are going to be working on. There are a couple of places that if we stick outside, we may pull something extra. So as Blackwing layer, learn to hog the wall. This is the part. If you run here, you may pull bugs. So we need to hog the wall. So we hog the wall. There are two pulls that are going to happen in this position. The first one is you can position yourselves in here, and it gets tanked around here. Once those guys are dead, we are going to be pulling the mobs that are down here. For this pull, it is really important that when we jump down, you go to this spot. And again, hog the wall. Otherwise, you are going to be launched into the air and you will die. Now, in here, we have the next boss. We will rest in this. Is this the boss room?
Yep. Bug Trio's here.
Yeah. Okay. So we will rest. Bug Trio, let's define it as two fights happening at the same time. Why? Because depending on the bug that we are going to be killing at the end, we have to deal with two tricky mechanics. One is a fear, and the other one is the poison volley. So we usually have two bugs being tanked on the left of the room, correct me if I'm wrong, to be, and one we will have it on the other side. So split.
And so like one right over in here, the other one right down in here for our guide, and then the other one where triangle and diamond are.
Okay, so the tricky part happens with those two bugs that are in X in triangle. Well, triangle, okay. X move. So the two bugs that we have in there where square is going and where triangle is, those bugs tend to do an AoE fear and poison. And since we are positioned ourselves in here, you will get fear and you will get that poison volley. So depending on the order, that may be the case. So sometimes it will be a little bit tricky to survive, and just be aware of that happening. The other bug that is being tanking here, he just hits really hard. When one of the three bugs dies, the bug is going to charge and eat his corpse to gain more stats and enrage and all that. While that is happening, just be a little bit careful with the aggro and all that, because it hits hard and you can get one-shotted. So once we kill one of these two guys, the guy that is being tanked on diamond is going to charge, eat his body, and we will have two bugs remaining, square and the new positioning. Once we kill either square or the other bug, we will repeat the same, and yeah. So the dangerous mechanics, avoid poison clouds. Again, it all depends what order are we following to kill the bugs, because they all do something specific. One thing is there is a bug where you have to interrupt because it heals. So interrupt that. Move away from poison clouds. Be careful as much as you can about your positioning. Is more or less safe to be like in the middle of the box and all that. So just be positioned like around here. Do your thing, kill box, and GG. Any point that I'm missing or any questions about this fight?
Our goal is to have the bug order figured out prior to the raid, so that way we can have it communicated to everyone so they can be prepared for it. And so it's just really important that people double check the guide and the plan for the week ahead of time to be prepared.
Absolutely. And that will let us know what type of mechanics we're going to be dealing with regarding the box. So, yeah. Okay, moving on. Now, during the next pulls, we are going to be facing a mechanic that is a lot more dangerous in AQ40 than in AQ20, and that is the Dispel plus Charge. During these pulls that we are going to be doing here, we are being split in two positions. Melee and tanks are going where Star is, and range and healers are stacking in here, always with your back towards the wall. Why? Because if you get charged and you get launched into this room, you will pull a lot more. So during these fights, it is important to be with your with your back against the wall. And as melee, those bugs will put a bleed on you. If you have a lot of bleeds, move away. But don't move away towards this because you can get kicked into the room. Move away with your back this way, okay? So that way, if you get a charge and all that, you get launched into a safe position. We are going to be doing, is it 3 or 4 pulls in this position?
Should be 3, I believe.
Okay, so we do the 3 pulls, and then we are ready to move. This is another part where it is important to hug the wall. In this case, it's the right wall. We want to hug the wall to avoid pulling additional packs that we don't need to kill. Okay, this is Sartura. Please remember, do we need to kill something before the boss, or we go straight to the boss?
Once we already cleared out, should be straight to the boss.
Okay, this boss, again, we are going to split the fight into 2 sections. It is important that all paladins start with a stun on your designated mark. And after that, it is the responsibility of the rogues, and I think also warriors, but mostly rogues, to keep the ads stun locked. We need to kill the ads first. Because they do a mechanic where they will start spinning and doing a lot of AoE damage. And also the boss is going to be targeting one person randomly on the raid and charge him while also doing the spinny thing. So it's important that we split, like 2B is going to be tanking the boss in this example, and we usually kill the ads in here.
Actually, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Actually, Icky is the one that's generally on the boss. I'll be on the first ad that we kill over in these sides here.
Okay.
And for the stuns, the paladins do the first stun on the 3 ads, and then the rogues take over from there.
Okay. For explanation purposes, Tubi is going to be tanking the boss over there. And in here, we are going to have the boss. Can you triangle and diamond can stack on X, please? So let's say that those are the 3 ads that are being stunned. That is why it's really important for paladins to stun at the beginning. So we managed to stack them like this. Now, one tip that I will give you as DPS, mostly for casters, is spread in a moon kind of style, because if you are stuck in a chunk like this and they do the AoE, you are going to receive a lot of damage. But if we are creating like a half moon surrounding that stack of ads, it reduces the healing needed for that. The tricky part for this phase is to keep the ads stunned. That's it. Once we kill the ads, it's a lot easier. If they start moving away, just move away. As melee, move away. It's like a dance. Move in, move away if they're spinning. And that's it. Once the ads are down, we are going to be focusing the boss. And it's exactly the same. I will suggest doing a half moon surrounding the boss and kill it. If the boss starts spinning, the tanks will taunt it, so it stays in the same place. The melee will go out, but the casters can keep doing DPS. Is that correct?
That is correct. And one weak aura I installed, it'll show me all the cooldowns for all the tanks. So I will be doing callouts saying mini physics, taunt, Icky, taunt, Tubi's taunting, just so we have a clean rotation on making the best use of our taunts to keep the boss as centrally located as possible.
Absolutely. And just as Pleb linked, having lips in here helps a lot. In case you have the boss charging you or the ads near you and all that, just pop a lip. That's a lifesaver. Or if you have the weak aura for a bob, that can also help, but it's a little bit more limited because few paladins. But
The
anyway,
boss, the boss doesn't need to be stunned, right? It's just the ads.
The boss does need to be stunned.
Okay.
okay, so any questions about this boss? So remember, we will do the initial pooling. We are going to stack the ads together, stun them, and burn them. If the ad is loose because we fail, miss, or whatever reason with the stuns, just move away. It's not worth it for you to stand still and keep DPSing. If he's going your direction, stop whatever you're doing and move away. Okay? Once the ads are down, we focus the boss, and you just do the same. For the boss, it's a little bit easier for casters because they can keep DPSing. For melee, need to move out. Okay? Okay, now moving on. If I recall correctly, this is the wannabe suppression room, right?
Correct.
Okay, so during this, we are stacking on the left. We are only going to stop when 2B stops. We are not doing any AoE until the blue bug dies, the elite. So 2B is going to keep walking. He will find the elite. He will taunt it, and when we have an elite, we focus the elite, and then we kill all the little bugs. We need to repeat this 2 or 3 times, I think, on the whole way. But yeah, this is a lot more easier than the suppression room from Blackwing Layer, but it's important that we don't do any AoE, Frost Nova, or anything until it's called for.
Exactly.
So we will do this whole thing and all that. And in here, we prepare for the next boss, Fankriss. We will stop in here to drink and get ready, man, and all that stuff. Again, another thing that I forgot to mention, for all the bosses, we are not pulling until we have a pull 20. Why? Because we need our tanks and a couple of our healers to get their trinkets, cooldowns, abilities ready for the initial pull. So please don't go full Leroy Jenkins. Wait for that pull 20. It's always a pull 20 because that helps with the timings and all that. So please don't go Leroy Jenkins. Be a little bit patient. It's worth it.
And if we ever do change that strategy, we will communicate that we're going straight into the boss. But at least for right now, it is going to be a stop here, pull 20, then go to boss.
Could someone show right now where the safe and unsafe spots are for pulling this boss? Because I know you guys are right at the edge of that point right now. I think that'd be helpful to point out. Like how far forward will someone pull the boss right now?
Before we make the pull, everyone should just be wedged up in here and not anywhere else until we're going into the boss.
So if I'm X right now, am I pulling the boss?
Potentially.
Yeah, so it's really close. So that corner going up into the ramp is really important to note for people positioning wise. If you trip and fall down and go down there, you're pulling the boss.
Yep. And the other important thing is the little bugs out here do respawn, so we need everyone stacked to make sure we're not pulling a bunch of ads.
Okay, so now for this boss will do 2 things, if I recall correctly. One is the cocoon, and the other one is tipping, right?
Yes. Just when the person gets chosen by it, they're going to get launched to the corner of the room, get put in webs, and have a bunch of little bugs start nibbling on their toes.
Okay, so for that, are we doing the Pala aggro for the box for this boss also?
Correct.
Okay, so for the fight, we are going to have 2 blobs or players. One where Star and Diamond is, that's melee, that's the boss. And the other one, you can be a caster. You can stay a little bit far away. That's black. Okay. In order to cheese this fight, we are going to have one paladin that is going to be rotating to keep it fair, that is going to be spamming kings with Righteous Fury. And that is going to help us pull all the little bugs that are going to start appearing towards this caster blob, so we can DPS it down. This boss also dies really fast. If someone gets pulled or converted into a cocoon, I don't know if the raid leader is going to call for it or if they are going to call for it. Okay, Snark is correcting me that we should all be stacked in this blob, so not 2 mini blocks. That's my bad. So we have one big stack, killing the boss, pull the mini box, kill them, the boss dies. If we have a worm appear, we need to kill the worm really fast.
We're gonna have Nos pick up the big worms when they show up, and yeah, they need to die ASAP because the big worms will eventually enrage and they just start slapping boys almost a one shot. So need to focus them down.
And if we
okay, so just to summarize, we will all stack. We will have one paladin spamming blessing to pull aggro and get all the bugs in here. Melt the boss, kill the ads with cleave, the mini box, and if we have a worm, kill the worm fast. If you get converted into a cocoon or something, we will keep an eye on you for heals.
And worth mentioning that so far we've never had a worm before the boss dies. Usually we just kill the worm after the boss dies, if there is one.
Any questions about this fight? If I'm going too fast or if there is something that is not that clear, please ask. Don't be shy, okay? Now, the next fight. One quick tip. Once this boss is dead, pop your nature protection pot, because we are going to be doing Viscidus now. So we go this way, we start climbing, and we are going to be doing that fight. I am not that familiar with the calls for sappers and changing weapons and all that. However, we have people doing those calls. For the initial pull, it is really important that everyone has their nature protection pot. And remember that we are not using even anti-venom or whatever thing you're using to remove your poisons until after the first split, okay? If that changes, it's going to be called by the raid leader or the officers. So for the initial pool, there are two groups. The first one is composed by healers, the tanks, and the melee. And the second group, that is where Diamond is stacking, that is melee. Melee will enter after, range. Range will enter when it's called. Is that correct, or I'm confused?
Reverse that. It's going to be tanks, healers, and range casters in this front group here, and melee going to be in the back. And then melee will come in when they're called.
Okay, my bad. I'll apologize for that. The reason why melee is entering a little bit after is so they don't consume the nat protection that quick, and they can focus on weapon switching for freezing the boss and all that. So when we do the initial pull, 2Bs on the front, there are a couple of fights where 2B is going to ask for a priest shield and or a renew, okay? So the only fight where we cannot renew the tank is Khatun. But there will be a couple of encounters where the tanks or the tank are going to call for a priest and renew and then go. So we will go in, 2B will tank in here, and we can start doing our thing. A couple of tips for paladins: try to keep wisdom on the boss, but it's not that critical. Most of the DPS that happens on this fight is when we have blobs. There will be two. There is a diagram on the guide. We will have, imagine like a nade, but one pack is a little bit wider and the other one is a little bit smaller. So if someone can explain that a little bit better, that would be awesome, because I'm not that familiar with that yet.
So yeah, basically, instead of all coming together in a perfect ring, They actually come together in 2 rings that kind of meet in the middle like an 8. And one of the rings just a little bit bigger. And where you want to drop your sapper is, if the big ring is usually a little bit towards the far side of the room, the east side of the room. So you're just gonna go to where the join is in the 8. It'll be pretty clear once they start getting close to each other, and you'll just head a touch towards the east side of the room, and that's where you'll drop it as soon as they're all close enough. There's a weak aura that will tell you how many blobs are currently in range of your sapper. When you see it hit about 8 or so, just hit the button. There's 10 blobs total, so.
Can I make one suggestion for just keeping track of where they're going to coalesce? If you actually position your camera directly above your character, like bird's eye view, and zoom all the way out, you can actually get a much better idea of where they're all going to meet up at and where you should be standing to pop your sapper.
And the melee are going to run out and whack a mob a couple of times, but you want to make sure that you run back towards the middle and beat the oozes to the middle. You don't want to be stuck way out on the fringe of the oozes and make your sapper useless. That's a bad thing. Don't do that.
So the important part during that phase is that you are able to hit at least 8 blobs, if I'm understanding correctly. Is that?
Yeah, the goal is for everyone to hit at least 8. You actually can hit all 10. A couple people are already pretty consistent hitting all 10. But as long as you hit at least 8, we'll kill them. So that's good.
Best case scenario is that we only have to do this once. After the blobs are killed, or whatever term you want to use, we'll have the big guy appear again. And that is when we need you to help us with using your anti-venom or whatever you're using to remove poisons, because it gets a little bit intensive. We will have paladins and druids dispelling as much as possible, but also we need some help during that phase. If we are not able to have only one split phase, we will have to repeat that again, and then it gets a little bit more tricky because we won't have the sappers. If that happens, we will have someone calling to focus a single blob or kill individual packs of blobs to have the boss down. Is that correct?
More or less, yes.
Okay, would you care to elaborate, please?
Just depending on how many blobs survive, we just need to make sure we coordinate getting them down so we get the boss's health below that 10%, so that way we only have to do one more freeze and shatter phase.
Yeah, if we fail to get them, if we fail to kill at least 8 blobs, then it becomes exponentially less likely that we'll be able to kill the boss.
Okay, so it is really important that you get that weak aura and that you can hit at least 8 blobs. That will make this fight really easy. Don't forget to use the poison removal after the first split, and just do your thing DPS. Healers, priests will be spamming heals, druids and paladins will be dispelling and also healing the tank, and that's pretty much this fight. We want to kill this boss with only one split phase. Otherwise, it's not fun.
And one thing I do want to add in specifically towards priests, I know you guys are going to be doing a lot of prayer of healings and you're going to get a lot of aggro. When he reforms together, make sure you have your fade ready to go, as well as the bot macro. I'm going to do my best to pump out threat with dual wielding on that to keep him on me, but just be careful because y'all can dish out some crazy threat numbers, and until I can eclipse you, he might come over and whack you. So just be ready with those.
Yeah, to that end, I find it very useful to try not to prayer of healing after he's broken, even if he gets off another poison volley, because he can actually have queued up a poison volley when he gets frozen and then release it when he shatters. I would recommend not prayer of healing if that happens, and just using regular heals, because you'll just have a ton of threat if you prayer of healing during the shatter phase.
If anyone has any questions about how to set up that weak aura for bopping, just let me know. Any questions or comments about this boss? Okay, so in terms of execution, I will say that this is the less forgiving boss from this raid. The key is to be able to sap as many blobs as possible, and then it's GG.
And it's also the most important boss to come prepared for. Gotta have your sappers, gotta have your protection pots.
And your elixirs of poison resistance.
Those two.
Okay, these pools that happen in this hallway. Next, the tricky part is to be able to dispel to avoid being one-shotted. So we will try to dispel as much as possible. Paladins and druids should be on top of that, and then kill stuff. The scorpions are not that dangerous, but the other guys, the wasp things, that one will put a poison and the other one will charge you. And yeah.
Don't cross the line in the sand.
In here, we are going to be pulling again with pets and all that, the pulls around this way. As Snark mentioned, there is this line where the texture changes. You shouldn't be crossing that line. The only people that can cross the line are the tanks and maybe a couple of healers to help the hunter survive that pool for any reason, or the tank, but the rest should wait for the trash to arrive in here. These pools, anything specific about these pools that I'm forgetting?
Kill the pink ladies first.
Yep, last year's are always the primary targets because they're just like the Satura ads, the whirlwind around.
Okay, yeah, I think that we can also stun those, but they tend to die pretty quick. But okay, if you can stun, but yeah, focus those guys, heal, and we are going to be repeating these pulls 3 or 4 times, I think.
It's like 6.
Yeah, like 6 or 7.
6 or 7, close enough.
And if we accidentally pulled 2 groups, it's not worth panicking. Usually that's totally fine. We don't want to get 2 groups, but it's not, no one starts screaming wipe if we get 2 groups. It's totally fine.
Yep, if we do get a second group too, avoid hitting them, let tanks get them picked up and get them under control. Biggest thing is just do not panic.
Kill order is pink ladies, little wasp, and then big white wasps.
Okay, once we are done with these pools, we will start moving towards the next boss. Here is Huhu. This one it puts a poison that is not going to be dispelled unless it's on a tank. And it's really important to keep that tank healed, because when you dispel that poison, it will tick for 3k. Other than that, we tend to kill this boss really fast. So we usually go where Star is and just keep killing the boss. If we need to dispel, we will dispel. But yeah, I think this is another boss that dies fast. Am I forgetting something?
I was going to say range spread out slightly because of the noxious poison that silences and hits in a little area. And then at 30%, all the priests just start using Prayer of Healing because she's going to do some big old bolts on the melee. And the melee need to wear partial NR gear up to get up to around 120 or so. Oh, and hunters need a trank shot.
Okay, yep, there will be a trank shot rotation, and yeah, I forgot about the 30%. The enrage, that's when the tank is going to get hit really hard, so the tank healers need to be extra careful during those 30 seconds. Well, more or less 15 seconds that lasts, because the priests are going to be doing AoE healing, so yeah.
It's like 3 seconds. I usually get off 1 prayer of healing before it ends. It's pretty fast.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
all the soakers especially need to make sure they pop their Greater Nature Protection Potion, although probably everyone should, just to avoid the noxious poison damage.
And to help out healers too, I do pop my life-giving gem in Last Stand just to give myself about 12 to 13 KHP for lots of wiggle room.
Yeah, so for healers, besides what Snark mentioned about the priest healing and all that, if you are going to dispel, you can only dispel the tanks, and be careful about the tick, the 3K, and other than that, move around because of the silence, and that's it. This next part, there are 2 hallways. Do we have ads? Yeah, but the big guys are after Emp, right? In here, what we have for Trash?
The Anubis hats.
The 2 group stacks and the many different mechanics.
Okay, so let's do that. For these guys, are like the improved version of AQ20. They can have some nasty combos. Depending on what they have, we will need to either stack as one, move away, run in circles, do funny stuff. But for now, let's do 2 groups. Melee will always stack on Star. And then we will have usually Moon. And all the healers and range need to stack on Moon. There will be someone calling if it is needed to stack or no. There are, from my perspective, 3 dangerous mechanics. The first one is Meteor. Right now, since Frike is not that stacked, if he gets Meteor, he may die. Because a lot of damage. And for some reason, hunters get shot by Meteor a lot.
They get what they deserve.
The other mechanic that is really dangerous is the Shadow Volley. Please be careful, because sometimes they can shadow reflect, but if you see a Shadow Volley, like several shadow balls going towards us, at that moment you need to run and stack. Otherwise, you will die. If you get hit by 2 volleys, you are dead. The only exception of this rule is if we have Meteor. No, what is it? Plague and Volley or Meteor and Volley?
No matter what, if it's volley, you're stacking on melee range.
Okay, there is no exception. So the important part is, if you see that volley, move in. We usually have someone calling for it, and that's it.
Thunderclap and volley in allowed
They're
combo?
mutually exclusive, can't happen.
Okay.
Okay. The other combination that we will have, if we can split again, the third one that is dangerous, it's Plague. If you get Plague, you are going to move to the side. Not behind us, not in front of us, to the side. Why? Because there is another affix that will cause those guys to explode, and if they are going to explode, people will run away from them. And if you come in contact with someone with Plague, it will spread, and it ticks, and it's nasty. I don't like it. So if you get Plague, please move to the side and wait there. Enjoy the ride while you are getting healed. If you are able to do DPS, awesome. If you are not able to do DPS, just watch and cheer and laugh. But it's use the sides. That is why we're using this strategy of 2 groups in the middle of the hallway.
So, just a couple things about Plague, because I feel like this is the one that people get mixed up on the most. Plague's range on where it starts hitting people around you is actually extremely short, as Amende was bringing up. Like, about here, you won't be hitting the melee stack if you have Plague. It's extremely, extremely short range. So don't like freak out and run to the other side of the room and not get healed. And especially if we have Plague Shadow Bolt, which I think is usually the toughest one to deal with, don't run more than 10 yards away from melee range, because if you hit the 20-yard mark, you start getting Shadow Bolt and you're just going to die. So you need to make sure that you stay close enough to not be plaguing, but or far enough to not be plaguing and close enough to not be Shadow Bolted, which is actually really easy to do. You have quite a bit of wiggle room for that. And it's actually better to hit people with Plague than for you to get hit by Shadow Bolt. So if you're, err on the side of close, not on the side of too far, if it's Shadow Bolt Plague together.
Yeah, Emende's right. DBM also has a range check that pops for this fight and also for Kutun for the 10 range. But yeah, it helps, and Snark is correct with that. So we will have to repeat this a couple of times before Emps and a couple of times after Emps. It is really important to keep comms clear and hear for the calls. If we need to stack, they will call for it and we stack. If we have Plague, use the side, then range. If we have Thunderclap, be careful melee. Range don't care about Thunderclap. Meteor, we need to be stacked to avoid to get one-shotted. The other affixes are like Frost Reflect, Shadow Reflect. I think I'm missing a couple, but those are like meh.
Explode and Rage, but yeah, that's it. But another thing about Thunderclap, if you're a priest in a melee group, just know that during Thunderclap you're going to sit there and just spam the heck out of Prayer of Healing. In fact, Prayer of Healing on priests is just really good for this trash in general. You can pretty much just use nothing but that on this trash and be successful. Another thing for the Shadow Volley is if you see Shadow Bolts coming your way, even if you're not sure, like if someone's called for everyone to move in, that's definitely what you're going to be doing. If you see Shadow Bolts, just start running in, because you do not want to get smacked by a whole bunch of Shadow Bolts. It's very bad.
Another thing that I want to point out, even if this is an explanation, what we are doing right now, it's a big no-no in terms of moving for these pools, because we are too spread. We always want to be stuck in our groups. If you are a star already left us and forgot about us, but anyway, if you are a star, you stick with star while moving this hallway. If you are moon, you stick with moon. No waiting and drinking and being left behind. No, it is important that we move as a group for these pools, because if we have a tail, those people left behind, it's really, they may die. So yeah. Any questions or comments about these trash pools? Okay. Pleb, can you be Iki on this fight and tank the left, please? Emende, can you be the Warlock on that side, please? Wisabi, can you be the Warlock on this side, please? I'm staying here. Okay, so for this fight, there are 3 things that I would say that are really, really, really important. Can the rest of the DPS please stack here on Moon in the middle for the meantime, for the explanation? This fight, the aggro is based on proximity. So your positioning is really important as healer, as caster, and as DPS. Melee are going to be running from one point to another, from diamond to a star, back and forward, back and forward. We will have someone call for it, even the DPS. For the healers and people that are stationary on either one of the sides, it is really important that you don't stand near the Warlock. Why? Because that creates a chance that there will be a blizzard going on onto the Warlock, and that is more things to heal, and that's a no-no. The other thing, we don't want to be between the Warlock and the Warrior or Boss, because in here you are going to pull aggro faster than the Warlock. No range DPS or healer should be down here. You always want to be around here or up here. The same on the other side as stationary people. Don't be close to the Warlock because of Blizzard. Don't be between the Warlock and the Warrior because you're going to pull aggro, okay? There are two... There is LOS between in here and the bottom of the platform, okay. There are two mechanics that cause damage in this fight for the rest of the people. One is Blizzard. It is really important that if you see a Blizzard, DPM warns you, you need to move away fast. It's not like the Blizzard that mages cast. This one hurts a lot. So if you don't move, you are just creating more healing for us. And this is a mana intensive fight. We are not there yet. We don't have the luxury to heal everyone in here. So please help us avoid damage as much as possible. So if there is a Blizzard, move away. The other source of damage is that if you don't kill the big red scarab fast, it explodes and does a fire nova thingy. So that is why during the transition between sides, you will hear someone calling, focus the big scarab, and the scarab needs to die, okay? We may encounter a glitch, a bug, or something going on that prevents the tank, either the Warlock or the Warrior tank, to get aggro. If that happens, do not go close to the boss, otherwise you are going to pull aggro. Let them get aggro. And when it's safe, you can start doing DPS. Again, we have been having someone call when it's safe to do DPS, but it is also important for us. Just don't get close. Let them do their job as tanks, get aggro, and then you can go full Rambo mode. Where I'm standing right now, Moon, we will have the raid healing. If everyone reacts fast, you won't have to heal a lot. If people are eating damage, then when they are running from one side to another, you can keep healing and helping with that. Okay? Am I missing something, or is there something that you want to put more attention on?
Just the biggest thing is for the caster boss. Again, it's really important. You need to stay away from him, just because if you do get too close, he does cast a arcane burst that'll hit you for about 4,000 damage, knock you flying, and put a slow on you of about 70% movement speed reduction. Just not a good idea.
One thing I was wondering, so I know when we're fighting the boss, DBM will do a countdown, and then it'll do another countdown shortly after that about the teleport. Could you talk about what those are?
So generally, the countdown you'll get in DBM is when they're able to do their teleport. Now, sometimes there may be a delay because the caster will be in the middle of casting a shadow bolt, so that can put a little stagger in the timer on there. The biggest thing is before that timer hits 0, melee need to make sure they're out. And then for anyone else, you need to make sure you're not ahead of the Warlock tank.
So the first countdown is for melee to move, and then the second countdown is when they're going to teleport. Is that right?
Essentially, yes.
Okay, cool.
As Pleb mentioned, I think it's Prodigy. Don't quote me on that, but there is someone that calls melee out, and it's usually 4 seconds before the split. So that has been helping a lot. So yeah, we have someone helping us with that to keep an eye when to move, when to transition, and all that.
And then, oh, sorry, not
to
to
avoid that. So that also helps.
Regarding dots, it's important to make sure we don't have any dots ticking when the teleport is up, just because if that dot ticks after they teleport, it's probably going to die.
Yeah, so Prodigy will call for mages to stop DPS or the Frostbolt or whatever it is to make sure that there's no ignites up when they do their teleport, because that's very bad, and there should be no other dots up, like no Shadowward Pains or anything at the teleport.
If by any chance you manage to pull aggro once the boss has teleported and we get a weird thing when the boss starts running to the other position, please start running towards the tank and help control the situation. Otherwise, we will get a full health and that's nasty. So if that happens, don't panic, keep comms clear and listen. You will hear someone calling for you and telling you, move or do this, stop DPS. I know that the numbers are shiny. I know that if that's what you want, you are going to be parsing and pushing. But a dead DPS is no DPS. So please don't ignore mechanics just because you want to keep killing stuff and seeing shiny numbers. Be a team player. If you hear stop DPS, is stop DPS. If you hear CC someone, is CC that person. That helps us a lot. Yeah, also you should have a thread add-on that helps with to measure the lead and all that. But yeah, this fight is mostly, it's a mana intensive fight for healers, and it's mostly about positioning and waiting, letting the warlocks and the warriors get aggro. And that's it. And we have good warriors and warlocks. They are able to hold the aggro. We just need to be a little bit patient for them to generate the lead they need. Any questions or comments about this fight?
Did we figure out why the melee emperor ran across the room last week?
We
So-
should.
Yeah,
Okay.
so what had happened on that was there was a delay on the right side for the pull happening. And so Beans is doing his warlock thing over here getting aggro. Shrim was healing him. The problem is that healing aggro pulled the melee imp, and so he basically is like right about here, sprinting all the way across the room,
Yeah.
and kind of more over here. So
I thought it looked like he was going for Shrem. I was like, oh.
yeah,
I mean, not trying to badmouth anybody at all.
No,
like,
no.
Just yeah.
we use a learning
That's what it
experience, and
appeared.
so yeah, but we use a learning experience. So what I'm just gonna do is when we do the pull, we'll make sure it's happening much more on time between the two, and then with battle shout spam should focus the melee emperor more towards me to get him in a position better.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning that on the warlock pull on the left, if Beans is doing it or if any warlock is doing it, they'll have shadow ward up and they'll have a priest bubble on, and you could really hold off healing for like a full 5 seconds probably, and just ensure that the mob doesn't come running over like crazy. There's like tons and tons of bubbly things on Beans when he does the pull.
Okay. Yeah, that initial pull in healing, it's kind of tricky. We have that. We can use a priest bubble, not renew, maybe, and just wait until it's a little bit closer for you to heal. What I do as paladin, I just stand here, and when he's in range, I will put one heal, and then I move away of the warlock to my final position. That's what I tend to do. But yeah. Okay. Any other question or comment about this fight? The other important thing that I forgot to mention, and it's related to keeping comms clear and not panicking. If we need a battle rest, wait until it's called for, because you need to accept it at a certain time as tank to avoid them pulling aggro and getting really messy. So the people that are doing that, they already know, but just as a mentioning. So yeah. Okay, once this boss dies, we kill the scarabs and all that, the remaining yellow ones with drink, and we need to position ourselves. The next pulls are nasty. Why? 2 reasons. 1, positioning, and 2, the freaking fear. We are chasing the fear on our tanks. So when they are mind control, they are getting a course of what?
Curse of Recklessness.
That one. So it's really important that mages and druids do not dispel that, because that is helping them to break that freaking fear that is it's not nice. So for the initial pool, after we have killed the emperors, we are going to be splitting in 3 groups. Pleb, can you stack? Okay, we will have diamond over there. That is where Mel is stack. We will have star over there. That is 1 tank and another tank. And the rest, I will suggest that you can stack in here instead of down the ramp, because down the ramp may create LOS issues if you get fear, and that's not nice. We need to break LOS. Imagine more or less the lab pack pulls on Blackwing layer. We need them to pull them, position themselves, and then you can go ham on DPS. There are 2 nasty things that happen during this fight. One is the freaking fear, that if you are lucky enough, clever enough, or whatever, you can outrange it, but it's kind of tricky, especially for this first pull. And 2 is the MC. So other than that, yeah, healers. Sometimes because of the fear or luck or whatever, there will be a tank that goes into this cubby and stays here. This cubby is out of line of sight. It's not a nice cubby, but we have to deal with it. So if you are healing that tank, just keep that in mind. You will have to move a little bit closer to cover those 2 tanks, where Star is and the tank that hides in that cubby. I would suggest that you avoid being near the stairs, because if you get fear, you are low on health, you are going to have a nice trip. So yeah. Am I missing anything for this first initial pull?
As just kind of a side note, we're going to be trying to kill all the flares at the same time to make it so there's only one of those AoE fears, to try to make that a little more controlled instead of just constant fears happening the whole time.
Okay.
And kill the Slayers first. I don't know if that was said, but kill those first.
Yep, Slayers need to be the priority because they're just as bad as the Whirly Girls, but now they do an AoE silence.
Yeah, one thing that I suggest as range, especially healers, be as far away as you are possible to avoid that AoE silence, because sometimes we're really unlucky and it sucks when we cannot heal and all that. So yeah. Okay, once we have killed this initial pool, we are going to start moving into this hallway. This hallway has a couple of similar pools. The complexity of the pools in this hallway is again positioning. There will be times where one of the tanks gets sent to another dimension because of the freaking fear, and it's really hard for us to figure out where they are standing for the heals. It may be useful marking the tanks, or at least 2 tanks special, so we know where they are standing, because it's really complicated at times to figure out after a lot of fears where they are. So that is mostly the complexity. During the next pool, we usually have again 3 blobs. One is where Star is to break LOS. Once they come, we will start splitting them. We will have another one usually in here, being tank, and sometimes another one around here. So this is the, well, okay, since we are going to be killing them at the same time, then that's going to change. We only have 1 blob, because the dangerous part of having them split is that for this pool, we cannot avoid the freaking fear because we are in the middle of the tree. But if we are killing them at the same time, then it's going to be a lot easier to deal with that. Any questions or comments about this pool? So the challenge is going to be killing them at the same time. So we only have to deal with one big AoE. And tank healers, you need to be able to hunt for your tank if he gets fear. Again, we are cheesing, so please don't dispel the courses. That helps a lot the tanks and the raid. So they avoid the fear, and we don't get a big mob angry trying to kill us because the tank is fear. Okay?
One more thing to point out too, with the Karaji champion, the big gladiator-looking bug, the reason why we do try to keep him far away from the fear is also if he's in line of sight of the other trash mobs and they die, he has a chance of getting a buff called Vengeance, which increases his damage and attack speed. It can be dispelled by Priest, but just looking to try to avoid him getting too many applications of that buff.
Okay, so once we are done with this, we keep moving. We have to deal with a couple of packs before we reach Katoon, but there is nothing new about these packs.
Well, there's a couple in here that are new.
Well, we have been lucky and they haven't done their mechanics yet sometimes, so yeah.
Oh, they're just easy.
Okay, so for in here we have two different types of ads being pulled. One is one with big guys, and the other one is with flying ladies, something like that.
Yep, you're going to have either two of the obsidian thingies with the Anubisath guys, and then more of the Mind Slayers and Slayers with the Karaji champions.
Okay, anything specific for those packs? Because I don't remember right now.
For the obsidian packs, we're killing Skull and X, the little winged obsidian guys first. If you have a mana draining ability, it is important you're using it on both mobs as often as you can, because if they hit full mana, they're gonna explode, take away all your buffs, and reduce your HP down to 1, which you're probably gonna die very shortly afterwards.
We actually only want people using it on X. Skull dies too fast.
Okay.
Yeah. We want Viper Stings on X, and then usually a couple of Priest mana burning. That'll be fine, because they'll die pretty quick.
Yeah, but yeah, just never want them to hit full mana. Otherwise, like I say, all your buffs are gone, and you're at 1 HP, and you're probably dead very shortly after. And then we'll work on killing the Anubisath guy. For the Anubisath guy, he's just like the previous ones. He has fun abilities. One is Sand Cloud ability, that reduces melee chance to hit by 85%, dispel it. He can do a root ability, and he can do a fear. And then I think also he can have a Hellfire too, which if he does the Hellfire at 1 HP, probably die.
Also, he has a Silence.
That too.
Okay, any questions about this new pack of mobs? Okay, moving on. After we are done with that trash, you can start drinking your Shadow Prot and your Nature Prot if you want, right? Or is it after this one?
I'd say wait till after Ouro.
If we have world buffs, we're going to do Katoon first. But if we don't still have world buffs, then we do Ouro first.
Okay, just because we are here, I forgot about Ouro. Okay, Ouro, the big worm. We are sticking with the cheese strat for this fight. So pretty much we are going to have 3 groups. One is a star that is going to be tanking the worm. The other one is going to be, let's call it X, that is going to be the casters and some healers. And I'm going to be the paladin cheesing. So between me and the boss, there is going to be Iki, a warrior, and I'm going to be spamming kings on him with Righteous Fury. Again, this is another assignment that we're going to be rotating, so it's fair among the paladins. The objective of this, or what we want to accomplish, is to pull aggro this way for the breath. Sometimes we are successful, other times we are not. So the best case scenario is that we are able to pull the aggro this way, so the tanks and the range and all that, they don't eat the bread, only Iki, and that is nice. However, if for some reason this strat fails and the tank eats a breath, all melee DPS need to stop doing DPS and move away. Otherwise, you are going to become the new tank. So I will suggest that if that's the case and one of our tanks calls for it, You stop doing DPS and move away. We are working on getting this strat going on, so we don't have to do that. But it's really important that if it happens, we can recover. It's hard, but we can recover. We just need to be a little bit less aggressive, and again, keep comms clear, follow instructions, and GG.
The biggest thing we're going to be changing upcoming is we're going to make sure Halterman, who's Lumi, has his buffs up. He doesn't have salve on, and he's casting kings right away to make sure he has every chance to get a threat lead. At the same time, the tanks are actually going to go very light on threat, just to not eclipse them and give them some time to get a good head start. All DPS will need to wait about 4, maybe 5 seconds before they start DPSing, just so we can get the numbers where they need to be. Then people can go ham and we'll be A-okay. It's just important that Halter does get that threat lead, so all the sand blasts go his direction, so it doesn't hit a tank, it doesn't hit the raid or anything like that.
Okay. Regarding the mages and the change that we implemented last week, I don't know if we are going to keep trying that. If we do, the raid leader or the class leader is going to call for that. Okay.
And yes, to echo Pleb's comment there, if everyone gets punted back and you notice you're the only person in melee range, you may want to strafe out of there just so the boss doesn't slap you, because you'll be the only melee target while the tank's intercepting back in.
So pretty much if everything works, it's an easy fight. We don't have to worry about the aggro that much and the breath and all that. But if the tank eats a breath, melee, please stop DPS. I will say that everyone, but okay, until we can stabilize again. And then we repeat the things, okay? Any questions or comments about this boss?
Going into the enrage phase, just to build on there, when he gets down to, I believe, 25 to 30%, he enters his enrage phase. There's no longer a chance for him to burrow, but he will start having little pebbly earthquake things start chasing people around. If you notice one is on you, run it away from the raid. Don't run it through the melee. Don't run it through others. Make sure you're just running it away.
Is it useful for us to use nature protection?
Yes, all the range damage that happens in this fight is nature. So the sandblast, nature. Little earthquakey things, nature damage.
Yeah. And then, hey, if you don't get hit, you can always have Cthulhu. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the big eye. Depending on if we have world buffs or not, but my point here is that while we are walking towards Cthulhu, drink your shadow prot and drink your nature prot. This part, this fight is not about heals, it's not about DPS, it's all about mechanics, about coordination, about doing your assignment, and that's it. The first time the killed Cthulhu, there were only 6 healers alive, if I recall. So yeah, and we have a lot of people dead and all that. So don't worry, depending on the phase, don't worry that much about big numbers and that we are not there yet. Be patient. For now, it's all about having a stable, smooth run where we don't have to spend a lot of consumables and all the reasons. We need a stable run. We managed to kill or to clear AQ in one day. That's amazing. Let's do it better. Let's do it with less chaos. So for this run, for this boss, we have two main phases. 3 if you consider the one killing the boss. The first one we are going to be assigned to groups, okay? The main thing is that you follow your mark. If I'm assigned with star, let's do it. Give me 1 second.
Well, should we rewind a little bit and talk about pre-setup before we go in the fight itself? Because pre-setup is just as important as the fight itself, as we saw this week.
Yeah, let me just put the marks so we can recreate that as the whole thing.
I guess while RJ is getting that set up, where Star is right now, no one should be going past this point as we're getting buffed up, making sure we have all our consumables in check. So no one should be going past this point here. We'll get all the groups set up so that way we know how to split up on the two sides of the wall here. Once we have those setups, we'll have the one set of groups be on this side of the wall. No one should be moving past this point right here. If you are assigned on the other side, you need to make sure you drag your bug to the wall here and just ride this wall all the way down and then come to the wall here and then move into the spot here. No one should ever peek around the corner at any point. If you peek, you have just killed the entire raid and wasted everyone's time, and people will be pissed.
It's expensive to die in here.
Yeah.
So yeah, just for the purpose of this explanation, I'm going to use X, Diamond, and Moon on this side and the other 3 marks on the other side, just as an example. Please don't consider these as the correct marks. It's just an example. So, any questions about the initial positioning for this boss? Okay, Mini, what's your question?
I noticed on one of the maps they show the healers in the back and the range DPS in front of them. But we don't seem to position anything special in our.
Yes, we do. I'm getting there. We should, but yeah, before getting to the positioning down there, let's cover this first initial pool. So according to the groups, Lyric should be on this side, Plebe Salon, and Mende Salon. And on the other side, we have Wormy, Mini, Irk, Lycanfrike, and Hoki. Okay, so now that you are in your group and you are positioned and you know which side belongs to you, there are 2 things that happen during this initial run into the room. One is that when Tubi is ready, we are going to have a priest shield on him. And 2, when Tubi reaches the entrance, I'm going to move just to show you.
Well, here, let's do a pull timer. I'll do it.
Okay, but before we do that, when he reaches a certain point, we are going to be able to move in. However, the first groups to move in are the ones to need to position at the back of the room. For this example, Diamond and Moon are going to the back on the left side, and Wasabi, can you go to the other side, please? So let's call Star and Wasabi to the back of the other side. Okay, so those groups need to go first. We don't want to stack together. The mechanic that wipes us here is that if we are stuck within 10 range, you need to keep 10 range. There is a freaking raid that will hop between people and that kills us. When you are running inside the room, hug the wall. move close the wall. Don't go near. Don't hit the boss. Don't do anything other than reaching your final positioning. Any questions about the initial positioning? Okay, can you do a timer, Tubi, please?
Zero. I'm going to go in a straight line all the way down the middle here,
Okay,
and I'm going to
nice
drive
turn.
myself right up in front of the eye.
Okay, we go, move, 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 move. There is a map in the position, in the guide, where it shows what's the final position for each mark. This is an example. Please just bear with me. Once we reach the position of our slice, I will suggest that the first part are melee, in the middle, healers, and behind the healers, the casters and range DPS. Why? Because that allows the healers to be healing the melee people that get taunted and jumping and all that stuff, while also helping the range. Unless the raid leader calls for. But it's a 10-yard range. Like, for instance, they should be able to reach. Or
I think what we're saying is healers should be in the back.
okay, then that's my mistake. If that is how we're going to do it, okay, we are doing it that way. Then healers are going to the back, and the range and casters are going to the middle. During the first phase, there are 3 things that you need to be doing. DPS the boss. When the small tentacles appear, kill them. Either the mini eyes that do a man flay, or the other one, medium tentacle. And the next thing is avoid the eye beam. You will get a warning. The eye is going to turn red. Either the beam is going to go clockwise or counterclockwise. Dark glare, that's the calling. The beam moves really slow. So let's say that is going to be moving clockwise. So once we have the dark glare, we are going to start moving, and we are going to end up in the opposite position from where we started. So right now I'm moon. Once I start moving, I'm going to end up, or my next position is going to be where triangle is right now. So we need to do like a half moon all the way to the other side, while killing the mind flay mini tentacles that are appearing. Okay, so we are going to be doing the dance, moving, 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 killing stuff, healing a little bit. We are happy, we're happy, we're happy, and we reach our final destination. Okay, we may need to do this between 2 to 4 times. I think it's usually only 2 dark layers, right?
Yeah, I think so. 2 to 3.
So if we need to repeat this, we don't care about stacking while the dark glare is up. Once the dark glare ends, you need to keep your 10 yards. Otherwise, you may get one-shotted. It's especially dangerous for the melee. The people that die to that mechanic tends to be because they don't arrive to their final destination. So let's say the pleb is there, and I decide to stack here as my final destination. This is a no-no. This will get us killed, okay? So melee are the ones in charge of helping us deciding the best position for each group. And that is why they get the marks for this fight. So please be careful. We have a couple of people during the fight saying, hey, Star, you are too close, move. Or hey, Diamond, you are too close, move. And that is precisely why we need to be aware of the 10 yard. So let's do another dance clockwise. We move, 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 move. killing small tentacles on the way, avoiding the dark glare, and I finish my initial positioning. And that's it. That's the first fight. It's not about killing a lot. It's not about doing a lot of damage. Just push the boss until it does the dark glares, do your dancing, and repeat. Once we are done killing this first phase, once the health.
Sorry, I just want to interject one thing before we go into phase 2. Out here in the far groups, there are going to be mini claw tentacles that spawn. We've assigned the 4 tanks to stay in each quadrant to deal with those themselves. So if you get a claw tentacle that spawns on you, we just ask that you just politely kind of move out of the way, let the tanks kill those so you don't have to worry about DPSing it. If one spawns during dark glare, you need to do whatever's in your power to avoid getting near it, because all it does is spam hamstring and knockdown. And so, depending on your position, if you get hamstrung, knocked down, you could be in danger of dying to dark glare. For melee, if you just happen to get a claw tentacle melee range there, just try to cleave it down. Tanks are just trying to focus on the ones in this outer ring out here to help out the ranged.
Okay. Anything else I'm missing for the first phase, or any questions about the first phase? Okay, so remember, one change that we're going to be doing from now on is that healers are at the back, and we will have in the middle the casters, the ranged DPS. For the second phase, we are going to be doing another change. We are not stacking at the entrance of the room anymore. We are going to be stacking back here. Why? Because when you get spit out from the stomach, it's faster to reposition yourself because you are landing around here. So that is helping us. And we also have more space to split. During the second phase, what we want to do is like more or less what we are, well, square is a little bit too far away. So we will have to be spread more or less like this. During this phase, there are three things that we need to be aware of. One, kill the small mind flay tentacles. The tentacles that appear back here are going to be killed by range. We don't want melee running in unless the raid leader calls for it. 2, every once in a while, there is a timer in DBM, we will have 2 big tentacles appear. One is a big eye and the other one is the normal tentacle. If a big eye appears, that tentacle needs to die fast. That tentacle is the thing that can wipe us during phase 2. So it will appear, someone will call for it, and we need to kill it. It can be interrupted. It cannot be stunned by paladins, but it can be interrupted. It can be kicked, it can be silenced. That big tentacle eye needs to die fast. While all this is happening, you will get randomly teleported to the stomach of the tune. Let's say that this is the stomach. You arrive here. Can someone recreate the 2 tentacles, please? So we will have diamond as 1 tentacle and square as the other tentacle, and 2B is the exit. So if you are in the stomach and you are a tank or a tank gets out immediately. A healer will heal a little bit inside the stomach and get outside. How do you get outside? You just, when you arrive, you land in acid, so you need to move a little bit to a small island that is in here, and you need to avoid the tentacles, because if you get close to the tentacle, they will hit you. So if you're in this island, you just move a little bit, and in here there is a weird platform that will spit you out. Okay. If you are a DPS, you will land inside, and here is the most tricky part about the fight, and that is coordination. The raid leader will call for when we need to DPS these tentacles. We will have 2 tentacles. You will usually start killing one. My suggestion is always start with the right one, or if that's okay, kill one. And when one is left, it is really important to hear when we need to push the tentacle, because we need to be dealing with the big tentacles that are spawning outside. So when the raid leader calls for pushing the stomach tentacle, whoever is inside needs to do whatever he can to kill the other tentacle. When both tentacles are killed, you are going to force a transition of the boss, and he is going to become vulnerable. During that part, everyone, including the healers, need to be doing DPS on the boss. There is no damage going on during that phase. We need to kill the boss. So far, our best attempt is two transitions. So we cannot kill it in one yet, but we do two. Once that we have 40 seconds to do damage. After those 40 seconds, we go back and repeat the same. We spread, we focus. How long? Okay, inside you are getting stacks while you are inside the stomach. Depending on your gear and the resistance and all that, you can withstand between 6 to 8 stacks. It is not worth you dying inside. If you are do DPS, watch your stacks. But if you are getting close to 6, 7 maybe, and you are not receiving heals because there is no healer inside the stomach, just get outside. This is not a DPS race. It's all about coordination.
Also, while you're in the stomach, do not stand in the green, goopy stomach juice. It will hurt you more. Make sure you get on the islands.
So once you are, we are outside and we do that, it's repeat. You get teleported out here, we spread, we kill the big tentacles, focusing the eye, and that's it. For paladins, we are doing our best, depending on how many we have left, to keep wisdom up on Cthulhu and on the big tentacles during phase 2. Okay, so again, it's not a race, not yet. We are not there yet. It's all about following mechanics, interrupting, focusing the targets the raid leader are calling for, watching if you are too close or too stuck and all that. It is a long fight. It's longer than Emps. It's not a healing intensive fight. We can wipe easily if people are stuck or if we don't follow instructions. But it's all about mechanics. Any questions or any points that are missing about this fight?
Just a quick addition for healers. If you're using Voodoo, I'm not sure about Healbot, but if you're using Voodoo, it's, I think, important to add a custom debuff for Mindflay, because it will tell you who's getting the Mindflay, and you'll be much more able to quickly heal them. Those Mindflays are pretty much the only dangerous things healers have to look out for in this fight.
Yeah, that's been super useful for me.
Also, during phase 2, the claw tentacles become giant claw tentacles. Right now, we have assigned that myself and Icky are gonna split on sides of the room, so Icky will be on the left, I'll be on the right, for example. When the giant claw tentacles spawn, we're gonna rush in, taunt, and get aggro. Once the priority targets are down, the little eyes, the big eye stalk, things like that, we want to make sure we kill the claw tentacle. Melee, just make sure a tank has already gotten to range to get the tentacle under control before you rush in and get killed.
Also, to complement what Star was saying, Healbot does show the Mindflay. So that's a valid point. I know that priests are putting a bubble, but also if you as Paladin can help, because as Narc mentioned, there are two sources of damage during phase 2. One is when the big tentacles spawn, they will knock back people, and that is when they get a little bit of damage. And 2 is the Mindflay from those mini tentacles. So yeah. Before we end this first explanation run, do you have any questions about any of the bosses, any mechanics, any consumables, anything? Okay, so if we don't have any questions, just keep an eye for the assignments when they are posted. That will help us to know who is doing what in terms of interrupts, healing, dispels, whatever. Please review that guide, especially for positioning. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact any of the officers, or if I can be of any assistance, just let me know. Thank you very much for your time, for listening to me for 1 hour and 30 minutes. And I hope that you enjoy the ride.
Thanks so much, RGA.
Thank you, RGA.